Live.
Hello everyone.
Hiya.
Hello, I'm Sarah Stokes and
I'm Andrew Hemming.
we're going to be spending some time with you now, running through some really exciting techniques. First of all, I'm sorry, I've just got to you've just seen who's coming in. We're getting a few people joined. Brilliant. Elizabeth, Leslie, Julie. We've got loads of people joining. Give us a wave, everybody. Tell us where you're coming from.
Oh, yes.
Linda. Brilliant. Yeah. Where are you all coming from? There's a few more else coming through. There's a load of Brits I can see coming through. Have we got anybody from America yet? When you get a chance, just type in where you're coming from.
Holland.
Holland. Brilliant.
Mexico.
Hello.
Croydon. Big shout out for Croydon.
Italy. Yes. Fantastic. That's amazing.
And the US.
Brilliant. Great. And we got Barry. I think Barry's coming to Italy with us. I think I might have seen Liz, who's coming
US
as well.
Again.
Canada. Stoke-on-Trent.
Yeah.
So we've got a real
corners.
Brazil.
Hi.
Wow, this is incredible. North Carolina. Well, thank you and welcome everybody. I've just got to apologise for the black eye. This happened 2 weeks ago, and it's a long. Well, it's not actually even a long story, but I had a party right at the beginning of the night, tripped over a step and hit a wall. So at 7:30 in the evening, before it even started, all the guests arriving as well. So so apologies for the eye. Anyway, moving swiftly on. I wanted to give a proper introduction to Andrew. So Andrew Hemming ran a landscape session over here in Arley and with the local students here, and it went down so well. Everybody absolutely loved it. And I know over 200 of you have downloaded his free video as well on a winter Christmas scene, and we're going to be including that in the bonus material that we send out to subscribers. Andrew's also helping me in the Cotswolds in September, not only with painting, but also Andrew's a professional photographer as well, so he's on hand to be able to help people with the photography. That's why I just wanted to introduce Andrew. So the next thing, why are we doing this session? I asked some of my local students what was the biggest hang-up they had with art. And a lot of them came back and said it was inertia. It was the fear of starting, of being self-critical, of being overwhelmed with the subject. And so I thought, okay, that's what we're going to tackle tonight. We're going to try and bring the fun back into painting. And so we've chosen two subjects, landscape and buildings, which potentially can be quite overwhelming. Just to give you an idea of the structure, this live feed will be roughly about an hour. Obviously don't feel like you have to stay. There will be a bonus pack with recordings and some pre-recordings on there that we'll send out to subscribers of oliveandplumretreats.com. But yes, anyway, it's going to be for an hour. I'm going to start in a moment on something to do with buildings and greenery. I'm going to be covering colour mixing, timing, layering, finishing touches, and also how I use AI to help me plan compositions. Andrew, do you want to explain what you're going to be doing after?
Yeah, I'm going to do a little bit introduction to landscape painting. Very simple, just two colours, so no complicated colour mixing. We're actually going to get the actual watercolour to paint itself, which is a great technique. I'm going to start small, almost like a sketch style painting, which can then be worked up into a larger piece. And we'll show a few different techniques and see how we go for time.
Brilliant. What's going to happen is the same as when I did the demo with Jane. Whilst one of us is demoing, the other will be on the other device, so we can ask questions, or ask you questions and you can ask us questions, because at the moment neither of us are looking at the feed, so we can't read it all, which is a shame, but we'll hop on to any questions that are happening very shortly. Just to let us know, just to let you guys know, we're going to be producing a bundle of stuff, virtual online stuff to send out to you. It's going to be a really useful bundle. There will be a materials list from both of us, a full-length video of the painting I'm going to show you. There's also going to be photos and templates. To get that bundle, all that you need to do is to subscribe to www.oliveandplumretreats.com. So that's oliveandplumretreats.com. And a newsletter will be going out, and it will be about maybe 4 or 5 days time. And yes, I was going to say, can I go on to the back of there? Olive and Plum Retreats. It's back to front the way. Oh, it's probably the camera.
It's me.
Oh, no, okay. Yeah, oliveandplumretreats.com. And you will get... Thanks, Andrew.
It's okay.
And we'll lay that on the painting when we come to do it so you can see it. And you will get a newsletter. And in the newsletter will be, some really nice free stuff. So we're going to crack on now with the demonstration. We're just going to switch off the main lights because otherwise it creates a little bit of flickering. I'm just going to have a quick look. Can everybody see? All right. Hello, from Germany, by the way. And Milan. Wow. I can see you on my phone, but not my desktop. Okay. Might be best to use your phone then, just in case. Oh, and from Malvern as well. Okay. So we're going to spin the camera around now and get started with demo. So that goes like this. And then we're going to turn that round like that. And then turn that like that. And Andrew's just going to check now that he's going to see what you are seeing. So we've got everything in shot there, haven't we?
Yeah, that looks good to
my
me.
hand. Yes.
No, that's disappeared now. Yeah, that's cool.
Okay.
Mumbai, hello.
Oh, Mumbai.
Wow. Arizona. Nice
Wow.
to see you. So we're a bit late catching up with some of the hellos from everyone, but it's
great.
Germany, loads of places.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, excellent.
And my friend Katie's there as well. Hello, Katie. So what we're going to do now is I'm just going to run through, first of all, the basics, I suppose, about photographs. So when you come to paint something, and it's great if you paint outdoors, but most of the time, if I'm honest, I'll paint indoors. You really want to choose a photograph that's going to really interest you. And the problem is with buildings, they can be quite intimidating. So if you're just starting out with buildings, just choose something that you think is going to really interest you. So this particular photograph is a photograph of Stinchcombe Hill House. It's a lamp outside of it. And in fact, it's where we're holding the retreat in September next year. So that interested me. So I took a quick snapshot of that. This is another picture of a Cotswolds cottage. I cheated here because it's actually my mum and dad's place, but some really, really nice photographs there. So I would choose these because I love the composition. We'll talk about the rule of thirds another time, but basically this drops in nicely to the rule of thirds. And then eventually I decided to go for this photograph for today's demonstration. I've got to be honest, it's not a photograph I took, but it is one that's copyright free. And the reason I like this is I really liked the warm colours in there. And of course, it's got red and green in there as well. And it's quite Christmassy. So I thought that was a nice one to use. I just touched on copyright there. So do make sure any images you use are CC. So what does that stand for? Creative Commons, isn't it? Creative Commons, so that you don't fall foul of anything. If necessary, tweak your photographs on your device, heighten the saturation so that it's much easier to see the colours. And what else have I put here? Oh, composition, which I've mentioned. So that's a little bit about choosing your photograph. The other thing I would recommend you do before you launch into kind of taking too much time is do yourself a very, very quick study. This study took me probably, 20 minutes. I didn't trace it. It was just a quick drawing just to check if the colours and the techniques that I was going to teach you tonight worked out. So I haven't invested too much time. And by doing that, it's not too intimidating. And you'll find Andrew's going to do something similar. He's going to be just concentrating on just very small items. And it just takes the fear away if you just do very, very quick studies. The other thing I want to point out is, as usual, I'm only going to use 4 colours. So I've got quinacridone magenta, I've got manganese blue hue, and I've got lemon yellow. These are all Winsor & Newton. They're professional range. And I also use any old black. I'm going to use lamp black. Okay. So those are the 3 colours. But again, these will all be on your materials list that we send out. Something else I've put here is about AI can help. So AI, I mean, it's got a bad rap, but when I say AI, I'm talking about apps actually. If I don't know whether something's going to work out as a watercolour painting, especially if it's a new subject that I haven't tackled in the past, I use something called Waterlog. It's a really useful little app. It means you can upload your photograph into the app. It will convert it within seconds to a watercolour-like piece, and you can just make a decision as to whether that's going to work or not for you. And it also takes away all the detail as well, so you can start to see it or visualise your picture as a watercolour picture. Because sometimes, you know, there's so much going on in a landscape or a building that you don't even know where to start. So hopefully that's helped a little bit. Okay, right, so without further ado, I'm just going to move this out of the way a moment. So I created this painting a couple of days ago as a result of looking at this photograph. Now, when you look at the photograph, it's quite complex. There's lots and lots going on there. But the main thing is, and I can't emphasise this enough, is try to block in your bigger shapes and squint a lot and make sure your details happen right towards the end. Because if you go in too early with your details, you'll find that everything looks a little bit disjointed. And really those first washes are about getting the colours to bleed and to merge and to get lovely soft edges. So I've done a full process video of this, which I'll send out in the bundle. I'll send the link out in the bundle. It took about 45 minutes to complete. With all my ums and ahs and making cups of teas, it probably takes about 35 minutes. So it's a nice quick one for you to try. But I'm very conscious of time today, and I want Andrew to obviously to explain his process. So what I want to concentrate on today is a little bit about colour mixing and about how to layer up these kind of sections that are going on here. And then you can watch the video at your leisure, but at least if I've explained some of the essentials, you'll find it a lot easier when you come to do it.
Someone just asked, what was the name of the app again, please?
It's called Waterlog. So it's from memory, and again, I'll put it down on the bundle. In fact, I'll write that down so I don't forget, because I do tend to forget. So if I put down, I think it's spelled water, Logue, something like that. But I will double check on that, and I'll send you out.
Someone said they think it might be Water League, Lig.
No, that might be a different one, unless they've translated it into a different language. But that might be another one. I mean, there are loads there, to be honest. So yeah, that's what I really wanted to talk about, was to get some of these colours down. So, right, let's get my water ready over here. And I'm just going to get the reference photo. Again, the reference photo we will send out within the bundle. And I'm going to use pretty much mostly let's get this under here, a size 12 sea white brush, synthetic. They're as cheap as chips. I think they're only about £2 or something, £3. They last a long, long time. So I'm going to use that kind of brush, and we're going to do something different tonight. We're going to use a flat brush for the bricks. So that's exciting. Okay, right. So first of all, I want to talk a little bit about colour mixing. So let's look at the warm colours first of all. So a lot of this is orange, a little bit of it is red. So orange, we're going to mix using yellow and the pink, magenta, in other words. So I'm put my water over there. It's going to be a bit of a mess, this is, as I start explaining stuff, but not to worry. So let's start with an orange. Whoops, now that's just too much pigment gone in. So, now if that happens, by the way, it's pointless me dumping a load of yellow into there, because it's not going to make any difference. You just start another little pile over here. Right, so we've got a good old orange here. And I'm going to grab a piece of paper. Okay, right. Now, if I put that orange on here, it's a very saturated orange. In other words, it's quite bright and zingy. You know, I can make it into different kinds of orange, just using the yellow and the pink. But if I want to make it a grubbier orange, so if I want to make it more like this, muted, duller, I'm going to add just a tiny bit of blue. Now, you've got to be really careful with these professional colours because they are so strong. Just put a little dab of it in, not too much, otherwise it will go green. And can you see here, we're starting to get a sandier colour. So we're kind of beginning to get more like the sandstone that's you'll find in the Cotswolds. And from there, you can adjust it. You can think, well, okay, it needs to be a bit pinker. So drop a bit of pink in then. So we'll just drop a bit of pink. And that's made it into a pinkier sandstone, okay? So that's really, really important. We've gone from a saturated colour and we've neutralised it with the complement of orange, which is blue, and we've made it into a neutral colour. And a lot of this picture, to be honest, they are neutrals. These are quite saturated, but most of these are kind of like grubby off colours. So that's a little bit about the colours that we're using for this Cotswold stone. And when it comes to these colours, what you need to bear in mind is these are richer, they're brighter, there's more pigment. So that'll be less water and more pigment. So I'm just going to grab some more yellow. Not quite so much of the magenta this time. Okay. And it's difficult with you not being right next to me, but that is, actually it's not quite thick enough. That is thicker. Okay, so there's not as much water in that. And again, you can see how it kind of looks like these kind of rich colours. And again, if you want to make that into darker colours or grubbier, just add a touch of blue and a touch of pink, in other words, purple. And you're going to get some beautiful, beautiful, rich colours. And just doing experiments like these on a piece of paper are really, really good fun. And I know certainly in class we do a lot of this before we launch into something. We do all this kind of experimenting just to play about with colour. And you also get these beautiful blends. And that's what we want to recreate on our piece. So that's what we're going to do first of all. So we're going to put some watery stuff on the first section. How are we doing for time? Because I don't want to overrun into your section.
We're good.
You're doing all right?
So, yeah.
Good. Okay.
Over a quarter of an hour.
Okay. Right. So I'm just using a very, very kind of loose way of popping this on. Okay. And every now and then I'll either put just a bit of water on, or I might think, right, I'll put a bit more pink in that to make it look different, or a bit more yellow, or a little bit more blue. Just to chop and change it. Because don't forget, a lot of this is going to end up like this. It's going to get covered with stuff. So it really doesn't matter, you know. They're just your first opening section. The only thing I wouldn't do is I'd just be careful or mask the green off, because I don't want any of that orange getting into the green. That's the only thing I'd be a little bit cautious about. Okay, now here it's pointless going down, you know, too light, because this packs a real punch down here. So at this point, let me just move this over here.
Oh, someone's asked what paper you're using. Is it cold press?
Yes, it's cold press textured, and it's Sea White of Brighton, and it's 350 GSM.
Thanks.
So yeah, it's a nice paper. So here is where we're doing those gorgeous, rich rust colours. Okay, so again, just chop and change it. I'm squinting now because I want to see where these colours go to. You see they even poke behind the branches. And I'm going to get a bit more here. So really just have fun with this. I mean, I think this is the whole thing, really. It's the more you experiment and just let the paint do its thing, the more you're going to enjoy watercolour. Now, I'm not overly worried if some of this orange ends up with green on top of it. In fact, I'm going to want that to happen to a certain extent. I've just noticed one of these bricks is kind of like a grey colour. So it's going to be more purple in that, and purple is pink and blue. A bit more blue. Look at that beautiful colour. Yeah, it's like a plum colour. And we're just going to pop some of that into there. And then just watch how the magic happens then. Leave that kind of just to do its thing. This is a really good point if you want it to be really expressive, is to get your brush out, not too much liquid on it. And you could even put some little marks on here. Wrong colour actually, I'm going to change that colour to more of a sandstone colour. That's it. Now this is a technique we used a lot when we did some little buildings in Nardo in Italy. We used this kind of texture just to do the stone buildings. Just having a quick look for an example. Yeah, we kind of kept it very, very loose and fresh with this kind of build, you know, this kind of technique. A few splashes and just letting one colour mix into another. Okay, so whilst that's settling down, just imagine I've done the other side there. It's a really good time now to start getting your greens in, because it stops you messing about with this as well. Otherwise, it's very tempting to start fiddling. Jane Davis always used that word, fiddling about with things. It stops you fiddling about with stuff. So, you know, we don't want to touch that. So, nice clean palette. By the way, if you find out you've got a load of gunk in your paint like that, just twist your tissue into a point like this and just sucker it up, and it will get rid of some of that colour that we don't want. Okay, so I'm going to move that out of the way very quickly because I want to show you a little bit about greens.
Someone's asked, is the paper damp?
No, it's dry. So I'm working on dry paper. So I just want to show you how to kind of create this effect where it's just a mass of colour. So the one thing I always do is I always start with my lightest colours first and my saturated colours first. And I'll explain what I mean about that in a minute. And then I go in thicker and deeper and desaturate with desaturated colours. And then finally, if I find I've gone too dark, which I had with this, I'll mix a little bit of green up with some acrylic and get some lighter spots on top. So I'm just going to show you what I mean. So when I talk about putting down the saturated lighter colours, what I mean, I'm just using two primaries. So I'm using, it's got a bit of red in it actually, let me get rid of that. Right, so let's just see if I can scoop some up without contamination. It's not too bad. Okay, so if I've just used yellow and blue, I'm going to get that kind of green, which is kind of quite an unnatural green. As soon as you put a little bit of the complement of green in it, so the magenta, it will make it into an olive. And it's just like, if I do too much, it go brown. So let me just get that back to being green again. That's it. So you can see you end up with a much more natural colour. Okay, so that's exactly what I'm going to do over here. In terms of my brush strokes, by the way, I should mention this. If I'm kind of doing that bush, I'm just going to show you very quickly, just using any old colours. I will just kind of do these kind of dibby-dabby marks, okay? Because then that will allow me to kind of come in with kind of other colours like this, okay? And you're really just dabbing, but it allows all the colours to run, and it's a really fun technique of doing it. So I just wanted to show you that first. Okay, right. So I'm going to make up kind of like a fresh bright green initially. I use my little finger here just to help me pivot so I don't end up getting everything everywhere. I'm just going to pop these little bits of green on here. And I don't worry if it goes into the rusty colours, because if it does, you'll end up with these really nice blends where one blends into the next.
Just a quick question about the acrylic part you mentioned.
Yes.
Do you use white acrylic with your green or similar colour acrylic
I
with
use
the target colour?
Yeah, white acrylic.
Okay, so to the white.
Yeah, definitely. I just use the white. And the acrylic I use is this one. So it's a De La Rowney, Yeah, FW. It gets a bit gunky at the bottom, but I just scoop. Actually, I use the gunk more than anything, to be honest. So I'm kind of going in really fast here with these colours. And then now what I'm doing is I'm going to mix myself some olive green. So if you remember, that was green with a bit of pink. Now, if it's gone that colour, it means I've put too much purple in there. Oops. So let me just get a bit more green in there. That's it. That's better. It's a bit too jadey, that is. So there's a bit of yellow in it. That's it. Okay, and now I start going in with my darker colours, and I'm just using my tissue to regulate the amount of colour I'm putting in there. Now, one colour that gets a really bad rap is black, but actually I use black quite a lot, because I'll use black like now just to kind of darken some of those colours, so it makes it a very quick dark green. I'm just kind of like popping all these colours in here. Right, oops, used the wrong blue then. Just mixing myself up a little bit more green. The one thing I really wanted to emphasise, actually, and it's a really important thing, there's a stage at your painting, this is probably the stage, where it looks a right old mess. And this is the stage that a lot of you guys, or I've found in the past, might be tempted to give up. Do you find that as well, Andrew? That you
ugly duckling, I believe, sometimes people call it.
The ugly duckling phase. And it's really important not to give up, because actually all you're doing at the moment is just layering stuff up. Yeah, you're just layering it up. This is just your initial wash. That's the other thing to bear in mind. You know, it's your first wash. Now, what I'm going to do, I've got these light colours in, I've got some mid-tones, but I'm looking at this dark shape. So can you guys just see this big dark shape that's here? You have to forget that these are leaves. What we're looking at are kind of like connecting areas. So this is one big dark shape, and it's not green, you know. We might think, oh, you know what, I'm going to go in with a darker green. It's not, actually. It's more like almost like a dark burgundy. So I would use what's already in here, and I'd make a kind of a plummy colour into that, like this. And then I would start dropping that in. And quite often, if you guys have seen me teach a while, you'll notice I put one finger on here and a brush on here, and that just helps me, guides me to where I'm going with stuff. Scoop up that dark again. Now it's all these darks that are going to start giving everything some shape. In a moment, I'll have to let this dry a minute, because it's going to get too wet and you'll find it'll just become ineffective. But you can see how we're just doing little blobs, little dobs, and it's really building up that shape. There's a similar technique that I used when we went to Andalusia this year. This is a very similar technique with an olive tree, where you just build up, you start with your lights and then you just dab on the dark colours. If any of you guys want me to photograph any of these resources, by the way, and send them through, just put yes or something like that on the comments, and Andrew will pick it up, and we'll send through any of these resources through as well. Okay, so I'm just going to pop those on there.
Someone's asked, is the paper still wet?
No, I'd say it is, no, it's pretty much dry now, actually. It's pretty much, this bit's wet, but this is dry here. And that's a really good question, actually, because I'm just going to let that settle a moment. But you can see how that's beginning to, oh, yes, people have said yes, that's great. Okay, then I will send through this one, and I will send through this one as well. The other thing is, when we went to Andalusia, same technique, we did this as well, yeah? And again, it's just building up. And this is acrylic, so I'm going to show you how to build up the acrylic in a minute when that's dry. Okay. I'm conscious of the time, so what I want to do is I want to show you what happens when you do stuff when it's dry, and I also want to put some little bricks on here as well. Okay. Now, if I was going to put these little red flowers on here and I go onto here and the paper's dry, it's going to look really ugly, and I'm going to show you what I mean. Okay, so let's make some red first of all. So we want some, oh, it's a bit greeny, but anyway. Try and get a bit of clean. Okay, right, let's just say we've made a bit of red. Now if I put a dab of red on that, can you see how it remains static? It's not a particularly good look. We really want to get with watercolour these kind of like soft ethereal edges. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put some water down. So it doesn't matter if it's already dry, just put some water down, re-wet the page. Okay, and then scoop up your red. I want it a bit thicker than that because my page is quite wet. Okay, and then you can just dab away. Okay, so you can just do your little dobs, and look, they're spreading out beautifully now. You see how much fun this is? It really is fun. And then within that, when you get a minute, you can start dropping in some little greens. Now, of course, if it's too wet, it's going to spill out too much. So some of this is a case of timing. So sometimes you might have to hold back. All the time when I'm painting, I'll do a little dab, experiment dab, and go, oh, hang on a minute. Nah, need to just wait, you know, maybe 30 seconds or a minute before I carry on. I just want to show you a little bit on these bricks, by the way. So let's just say we want to kind of like recreate some of this brickwork that's up here. I'm going to mix myself some nice goldeny colours. That one's quite a nice one, actually. Let's mix a darker one. How many of you guys have started painting with just a handful of colours, by the way? Are you all still using a lot of colours? Or are some of you trying to just knock it back to just a few now? I'd be really interested to find out. Right, and it's going to pop a little bit.
Someone said lots.
Lots. Well, this is cheaper. And you know what? The reason I like doing this is because actually it limits the choice. Because actually, if something isn't going the right way, well, you've only got one of the colour. You can try. You know, if you mix two and you're still not right, we'll try the third one then. You know, so it actually makes life a lot simpler. I struggle now. This is my old palette that I probably would have used during my Domestica days. I don't use this anymore. This, like, frightens the hell out of me now. I think, oh gosh, where on earth do I start? I use these cheap and cheerful palettes, which have normally just got the 4 colours in. Sometimes I do cheat and I use ultramarine blue. Yeah. Right, okay. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to do ourselves some little bricks. So you just get your brush and you just do yourself. That's not very dark. Let's do a darker one. These are a lot of fun to do. I'm just going to do maybe a different colour one. If in fairness, I've used too big a brush there, so they're not brilliant bricks, but it gives you an idea. And it's how I did the ones down here. So actually, let's go back onto my big one.
Interesting choice different people have for their colours, but yeah, a lot of people have gone to limited palettes.
Oh, have they?
But
that's good to hear.
But sometimes someone's saying they still struggle to get the same colours.
Yeah, I say ultramarine blue's difficult, and in a minute Andrew's going to be demonstrating with quinacridone gold, which is like an absolute stunning colour, and yeah, you can't really replicate that. And then I'm just going to sweep this way and just pop a little brick in there as well. See how the bricks are really good fun to do. Yeah. Now, I remember when I was doing this piece yesterday or the day before that something wasn't working on it, and all it was, I just needed to merge this more into here. So if you've got all these horrible white gaps and it's just not looking right, and you'll see it on the video when you get it as a download, then there's nothing stopping you just kind of like mixing the whole lot of stuff together and just dropping it in. So I'm running out of yellow, that's all. And just dropping some of those darks in. And you know what? It was when I started doing that, right towards the end, It really came together. And actually when I dropped in the shadow on the door, it's those daft little things that really, really help. Okay. Right, I wanted to show you, once that's dry, is about how to add some little light patches to it. So all that I do, it's really, really simple, is I get my white acrylic, which is this one, and I get a clean brush. So I'm just going to rinse this one. And because the good stuff's right at the bottom, I gunk in, I get a load of good stuff, rinse my brush out. Now, don't contaminate, you know, expensive paints with this, because, yeah, acrylic's a completely different medium. And I just want to make myself some green. So I'm being lazy here because I need to get some more yellow, but I don't want to stop the feed to do that. So I'm just going to get some green. And all I'm doing here is I'm mixing it up with a little bit of this acrylic. And I'll talk about gouache in a minute as well. And I just do some little dobs again. And it starts to lift things. I'll tell you another thing which is brilliant to use as well, Posca pens. So this one here, the balcony scene, that was just Posca pens as well, dotting with Posca pens, which I think they're a form of acrylic. And there's another little practice one here. And this is, I think this was gouache, mixing gouache with watercolour as well. The difference between gouache and acrylic is once acrylic's gone on this, you're not going to lift it, you're not going to be able to reactivate it. But if I'd mixed white gouache with the watercolour, then I could reactivate it, lift it, do lots and lots of different things with it. Right, so I hope that has given you a little bit of an insight into some of the techniques in the main video for this piece. Has anybody got any questions before I hand you over to Andrew?
Someone did ask acrylic ink.
Yeah.
Yes, it is acrylic ink.
Yes,
Isn't
it is.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah, and you hardly use any, to be honest. I think they're about, I don't know, £5 or £6 or something like that. And I just use the white one and mix it in with a bit of watercolour. Yes.
People saying, yeah, they love the little florals.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm just going to double check my notes to check that I have said everything. Yeah, I think I have actually. In fact, this is, some of you will have done maybe the domestic course ages ago. Actually, maybe not so much ages ago, but this is acrylics as well. So I started off light, went in really dark with my watercolours, and then I think we used white acrylic on that to get some of these lines, just to give it a bit of a 3D flavour. And that's still a domestica course that's still running. The only thing I would say, though, is just be careful that you don't inadvertently subscribe to something you don't want to subscribe to.
Someone asked again the brushes, please. What brand of brushes? I can't say brushes today.
So Sea White, this is a Sea White 12. I think they're £2 or £3. Sea White have got an online shop, and somebody just asked, will the full video be available afterwards? Yes, it will. And this one, I don't know who this is, Artist Loft. This is, but to be honest, these are Sea White do these as well. It's just a flat brush. I don't know what's 5/8 that one. So yeah. Right. Oh, acrylic, is it water soluble? No, once it's on, it's on. You can thin it out with water, but once it's set, it's set. So, right then, shall we swap over then, Andrew?
We'll swap over, yes.
Right, that's brilliant.
Oh, a tough act to follow, but I'm just going to find the reference photo just to show you what we were working.
Yeah, I'm just going to come out of the way.
And again, we'll make this available. So bear with me just one moment. We'll just do a quick swap over. I'll show you the photograph. Hopefully you can, there we go. And that's a scene from down in the Cotswolds.
Slimbridge, it's one of the places that we're taking people to. It's a beautiful wetlands, nature reserve, isn't it? Full of flamingos and swans.
And I think here we're looking across, because the River Severn comes down, and it's the estuary to where the river then joins the sea further down. So hopefully you've had a chance to have a look at the picture. Just one moment.
Lovely. Right.
Let me just...
Brilliant. Okay, smashing. Thank you. Right, we swapped over.
Right, I'll just get my water.
Glad you enjoyed it. Thank you for the lovely comments. Can you put the picture up higher on the... Oh, sorry, the picture's gone now, sorry.
Oh,
but,
shall I bring you...
do you want to see it back again? Right, we'll put it back again.
One moment.
There you go.
Let me see if I'm bringing...
Is that working?
I'll try and hold it there for a moment.
We'll send that over in the resources.
Yeah, we will send it over. So
yeah.
it just gives you a little bit of what the inspiration was. I'm not trying to do a photo full reproduction of the scene, but it was the essence of what I was actually after. So let me just grab...
We've got somebody from New Zealand just finally mastered watching the live feed. Oh gosh, it's 6:40 in the morning. Blimey heck.
Wow, they're up early.
Steve, glad you enjoyed it, and you, Pat. Glad you enjoyed it.
Okay, right. So limited palette. So working with just two colours, indigo and Winsor & Newton now call this transparent gold deep. But it's basically still the quinacridone.
Quinacridone gold.
If only I could say that word. And then brush-wise, these were just some cheapest chip brushes. I think they're from, if you're from the UK, they're from TK Maxx. See, I only buy the very best equipment. And they come in various sizes, 10s, 12s, 8s. I won't be needing them all, but you can never have too many brushes. And I'm using flats. I could use a round. It's not crucial that I actually use the flat brushes. I just find they're easier. So I'm just going to activate my wash. Oh, there it is. I'll just give it a little spray. Now the paper is dry. And it's the same paper Sarah was just using. So it is, cold press, 350
yeah,
GSM.
350.
Yep.
And somebody's just asking, could you just say the colours again, please?
Oh yeah, sorry. It's indigo, one of my favourite colours. This is Scotsman range from Newton, Winsor & Newton, so it's kind of their student grade. The transparent deep gold is a professional. I think they only do it in the professional range. You could use another yellow. It doesn't have to be this yellow, but they do work quite nicely together. So I'm going to basically let the colours mix on the paper. So there's no complicated colour mixing here. It's slightly abstract. I'm just going to wet my brush. Now the pigment I'm actually going to use is very strong. It is really not being, it's almost as it's come out the tube. And I just want to put a basic line across. The line will not run the full length. The reason for that is, if you put a line directly across the piece of work, the viewer's eye will just follow the line straight out the picture. So I want to hold them within. I'm going to position, it's up to you really. Do you want more sky or more foreground? That's a choice you've got to make. So I'm going to go just below the halfway mark because I'm going to work the hillside up into the picture. So it's a case of just dabbing some colour in. As you can see, I've got quite a lot of paint on the actual brush tip. And then I'm going to leave a gap now and again. I've just turned it so I can actually transfer a bit stronger pigment down. That's about as far as I want to go. As I'm only using two colours and to save some time, I'm going to use another brush. So I'm not washing my brushes in between. Just make sure my brush is clean. So I'm actually going to pick up just a little bit of the gold. And, oh, thanks. And I'm just going to dab that, not all the way across, just in a few little places. And I might actually dab a little bit just underneath.
I love this technique. It's magical, isn't it? It's just amazing.
I hope it works. No, it will. It will. Lack of confidence. Okay. Then I'm just going to take just some water. Now, I know you're all going to say, we can't see what you're doing because you're painting with water. Hopefully you'll get the idea of the general movement, but you'll see in a moment when I move when we move it down. I'm basically just doing a little bit of a skyline for the hills. Okay, so I'm just using water at the moment. I don't know, you might be able to see that.
Somebody's asking if we can zoom in.
Zoom
I'm not
in,
sure
yeah.
if we can so much.
Can we move down a little bit?
Oh yeah, yeah, we can move the unit down.
There you go.
That's probably...
Do I need to move up a little bit? Hopefully that's
it. Have you got enough space?
Yep, I'm good.
Okay,
Yep,
cool.
I can fit in.
Brilliant.
What I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn so it's now upside down. It just makes it slightly easier. And then what I'm going to do, we want to move while the paint is still wet. And I'm just going to bring in some of my water. I'm just picking up some more clean water. I'm just going to let this come in to actually start to move into our hillside. I'm going to turn it back. If it's not moving as much as you want, you can just dab and encourage it to move. I'm just going to do that. And again, if you feel you need more pigment, you can always pick a little bit more up. I've still got some pigment left on my brush and tap it in. And then of course, what I want to do, just make sure my brush is clean. I'm just going to bring this area of water back down to encourage it to move up. Oops, sorry.
No, it's like the comments are getting in the way. Could you possibly...
Oh, sorry.
That's it. It's not your fault. It's just the way the Instagram...
There we go. Sorry, guys. There we go.
No.
Hopefully that works a bit more. I'm just going to encourage this to move up. Now, I can tilt the paper.
People are loving this.
And we can get it to actually start to move. It's a little bit abstract. And I think I'm going to need a little bit more pigment. So I'm just going to tap this in a little bit stronger. We encourage it to move. It's going to come across. So the green is just a combination of those two colours. We actually haven't put any green paint as such on there. And we can just let it move and let it go. Okay. So for my next part, I'm going to put in another line, but I want to leave a little gap. So I'm rotating this picture around as I'm painting.
That's fine.
So I'm just going to, I want to leave a little bit of space. We want to leave a little bit of something for people's imagination as to what's happening. And then I'm going to pick up a little bit of the gold and we're just going to tap that in just into the foreground like so. And then again, I'm just going to just wet along the edge as I touch. I don't want to touch all the way along. I want to leave a few little gaps and a few little spaces so we get that.
You stay where you are, Andrew. I'm going to move the camera, I think. So sorry, because timing's everything. I think that will move it the right way.
There we go. I'll move it a little bit further up as well.
That's it.
Okay.
That's it. Cool. Brilliant.
Okay. So we're going to go for, as we saw in the reference, there is like the sandy area of the actual estuary here, which works on a diagonal across, like so. But the actual movement of the sand is that way. So rather than painting across, I want to paint across on the diagonal. And for that, I'm just going to use, again, we're just using the same colour, the gold. So I'm going to start, actually, what you can do, let's just do it slightly different. Let's put the water in first. And I'm leaving some gaps in there. Again, I'll try and angle it. I don't know if you can actually see the water glistening, but then hopefully when we put the colour in, you'll see
It's beautiful already.
it will start moving across. Now we did have that foreground of grasses, and again I'm going to use the indigo just to dab some of that in. And some of the grasses were working up as well, and I'm just going to work those in just to loosen that in. And we'll just pop a little bit of colour back into there. Now what we can do is we can actually draw into the paper. We can use a craft knife. Always looks slightly threatening when someone points that at you. But we won't use that. we're going to use something that you have to go out and buy. No, you don't. You actually get it free with every tube of paint. You get a corner. And what we can do is we can draw in and actually put some detail in. I'm just putting some random lines to indicate hillside, fences. We're going to leave it to the imagination. But we can also use it here. I'm going to put a little bit more pigment back in, just to strengthen this up a little bit. And I'm just going to use the edge of the brush, a little bit of an indication. And then I'm just going to flick up using that. Think about the way grasses move. They're not like, they kind of do go in different directions, but if the wind's blowing, they'll kind of go in a general similar direction, but try and alter the angle and the direction as it goes. And I'm just moving those in like so, just to give us that bit of detail. Now, you could drop a sky, you could leave it as it is if you wanted, or if we want to drop in a little bit of a sky, I'm just going to make sure my brush is
Somebody's put,
clean.
This is great, I've learned more in the last 15 minutes than any tutorial I've seen.
Oh, that's good
Pete's
to know.
put something really nice as well about having done your course. I find I'm leaving out any focal points that draw the eye. The more I leave to the imagination, the better. More. So, yeah.
Thank you very much, Pete. That's very kind. I'm just going to drop in a very simple sky. I'm just going to wet across. I'm just letting the water do the work. Obviously, I'm just mindful about coming down into that hillside. And again, as we're only working with two colours, I'm going to use the indigo, and I'm just going to drop that in and just brush across just to give us, oops, I did touch the hillside after I said I wouldn't. Let's drop that.
It's always the way,
Drop that. I know. We'll cut that out in the edit. Oh no, it's live. Oh dear. Okay, so I'm just going to do that across. Okay. And that's probably what I would do for the sky. And of course, as this is water, we're just going to use, again, just a brush across, just very loose. And again, if we want to soften the edge, we can just use a little bit of water just to show the sky. I'm just going to pick up that little edge there. There we go.
These are brilliant techniques for journaling, aren't they? If you just really want to get something down.
Yeah, it's a really quick sketching technique, really. If that's all you want to capture, something from the moment. And I like working on these small pieces. I'll show you one I did earlier in the best form. And this is actually smaller. I'll lift it up so you can see. And this is actually A6. And basically the same, but the combinations will always be different because the paints are mixing themselves. So how are we for time?
We're okay. We've got about another 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait, yeah. Yes. 5 to 7 minutes.
Oh, we can do another cut. We can do another picture.
Ooh.
Yeah. Let's do another picture. That's how quick this technique is. But we're going to do something different. Sarah mentioned earlier acrylics. We've got some acrylic inks here. I'll lift them up. So again, same range, it's the FW range. I have indigo again, as you can see, it's one of my favourite colours. And they don't do the gold, but I'm going to use yellow ochre. So you could use any yellow, really. I think they do a couple of different yellows in the range. Slightly different in that we don't have to worry about the initial brush.
He's asking if you could just push it up a little bit further.
I'm sorry.
Image, or the camera down. Somebody was asking, how did you get the reddish effects on the yellow area? And that's just the mixture of the gold and the blue, isn't it?
It is the gold. Let me.
It's amazing that gold is.
Let me just bring this back in. Those areas here. That is just the gold. Incredible. On its own as it comes out. If you notice, if you look in the palette, it is quite a reddy brown. So. But it really works well with indigo, and that's given us the green colour that we have there.
Amazing.
So, you do need to probably shake these, or as Sarah says, you get all the gunk at the bottom, but it's quite nice to mix it all up. Just make sure the top is screwed on properly, otherwise you'll redecorate your studio very quickly. One of the things I like about doing these pictures is if you haven't got a lot of time and you're working on a big piece and you spend hours and you're not happy with it, you think, oh dear, you know, I've got nothing to show. This, you can just play with this, try some colours. It's a small piece of paper, and if you think, oh well, it worked, well, I'll try again. It's very simple to do that. Now we're actually going to use the stopper to actually put the ink down. I would suggest don't start right at the very end, because it's going to probably dump down quite a bit more than you want to start with. So start maybe part way across, and again, I'm going to leave some gaps and we're going to come across. And you'll find as the ink runs out, you can actually get some quite fine lines working in, which I quite like. Then I'm just going to drop in again a few little spots, because obviously the more yellow I put in, the more green we're going to get. And often as things disappear into the distance, they become bluer, because that's what we're after. So again, I'm just going to put in a basic shape of a hillside. Again, I know you can't see what I'm doing because it's just water. What you will find though, I'm going to just rotate this. I'll try and keep the paper back in the same position so you can see. What you'll find is acrylic inks. I've said before, I think they're like watercolours on steroids. They're like, wow, they really move. And you'll find when you touch them, there they go. And the colours are quite punchy compared. And again, I want just to rotate it back. If you find the inks aren't moving as much as you want, again, if you tap, if you want to move them across, you can. And I'm just going to move. Again, we can just encourage the paint to move by tilting the paper and tipping the paper. And I'm just going to job in a few spots. And again, we can use the same technique that we had before of using the the corner of the paint tube, just to put some lines in. You'll find where you do the indentation, you can actually come out of and just the colour will travel with it.
Quite a few people feeling inspired to have a go at this.
It's real fun. Again, I'm just going to draw off just a little bit, not too much, and I'm just going to leave a little bit of a gap for where we were. And again, we can just run along the edge. Oh, a bit too much water on there. Run along the edge just to encourage the colour. If we use a little bit of water, then it won't move quite so much.
So that white space is really important, isn't it? You know, we have some discipline not to fill everything up. Yeah,
I think often we feel there's a space, we must fill it. And I think often we want to not always do that. Now, rather than putting the water down like I did before, this time I'm just going to just draw straight in with the actual edge of the dropper. And again, I'm just going to take some water and I'm just going to ink. Oh, would help if I had a brush that was clean. So we'll just mop that up. There we go. That's fine.
You're so laid back.
Well, I try to be. What choice do I have? What's the worst? It's a piece of paper. What's the worst that can happen? So again, I'm just going to do just a little bit of a foreshore. And again, I'm just going to use the blue.
See why people love this technique. It's just so much fun, isn't it?
As you can see, the inks are just running off. And again, we can work, if you have a clean brush, you can just work in some of the inks again. And if we want, we can start working in and pulling out.
Somebody's tried Epsom salt water mixture with this.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you can use you can put salt on the same as you do with watercolour. And in many ways, it just works similar to that. And that kind of, you can just leave it at that. I'll just grab one that I did before, which was one I did earlier, and we'll put this in the pack as well, which I'll show. And that was the same technique. So again, just the two colours. I added a couple of birds in. I actually just used just a black gel pen. Nothing particularly special, 0.7 size.
Some hints on birds.
Oh,
because they're not as easy as they seem.
No, with birds, I'll be honest, I saw this, I can't remember who it was. I saw someone else who suggested this with birds, because it can be very tempting. Let me just grab a piece of paper. To do birds which are like that. If that makes sense. And the tip I saw, which I thought was very good, is basically to do one shape, but leave a gap. So it can just be, and again, it doesn't have to be with a pen, but you see, it's the gap that makes the difference. If you use a very small brush, you can do that like with a liner or a rigger. But on these, I often use a pen. So if I was going to pop a bird into here, again, think where you're going to position the bird. I would normally, good old friend thirds. So I would be probably putting it on a third. So I'm sure if you haven't come across the technique composition wise, we divide our canvas, I'll move that up a bit, into threes. One there, one there, one there, one there. And normally places of interest would be where those points are. So if I was going to put some birds, I'd put them in. You could put a single bird, like so. And again, a little gap just to draw the bird in. We normally prefer odd numbers of things. I don't know why, but it's your painting if you want to put just two in. And maybe just a smaller bird, and it'll give the idea that there's something off in the distance.
It's beautiful.
And it just gives someone's eye where to go. As we can see here, that was a very similar layout, and we actually put the lines in just by using the tip. I've put no sky in. The one thing you have to remember with acrylics is that, as Sarah said before, once they're dried, they're dried.
Somebody was asking actually what was the difference between that and liquid watercolour.
Yeah. I mean, what you could do, which I'll show very quickly, is if I wanted, I could paint over the top.
Big advantage actually, isn't it, from that point of view? Put your sky in.
Yeah.
Not having to worry about it.
Okay, the pen's not 100% waterproof, but as you can see, it hasn't lifted. It hasn't touched where the inks are. You can actually layer across. You can actually layer across with inks as well. And just looking very quickly I was playing around previously, and that was a combination of ink on top of ink. So if you water the ink down, it will give you a transparent effect. Again, similar to watercolour. Then I actually went over again with more of an indigo. This is, again, it's just the two colours. This is just the indigo and the yellow ochre. And then, as I say, once it was dry, I went back over. It won't affect what you've already laid down. And this was just letting the colour do its own thing. The lines, again, was with the paintbrush. If you want, you can always use a pen and actually just put some lines in, like I've done there. Or, as Sarah mentioned earlier, Posca pens, which again are an acrylic. This is a 0.7. You just need to give them a shake to get them going. And again, you can add in some detail like so. And again, this is working. You could do the same on top of watercolour. This is just adding in another layer of detail and textures if you want to do that.
Stephen was just asking, do the brushes clean easily using ink?
Yeah, they do. I'd recommend clean them as soon as you've actually used them. Once you've finished, clean them off. I wouldn't let it necessarily dry on the brush because it is waterproof or water resistant, I think is how they describe it. So yeah, I would say Clean the brush off afterwards. Don't leave it. I suppose the same as watercolour. You shouldn't really leave the paint on your brushes, but it's better to just to wash them off. But it does wash out. It does wash out. Even if you get it on your hands like I have a little bit now, it does wash off. It's not terrible stuff.
Well, what we're going to do now, we're just going to quickly spin the camera around.
Yeah.
Jesus, and does it go that way? That's
yeah.
it. There we go, and we're both back in the room.
Oh, I just put the lights on.
Oh yeah, put the lights on. I thought you were going to the loo then.
No, not yet, not yet.
So we just want to say thank you so much for joining us. As part of that bundle, we'll also include the link to Andrew's winter scene, in case you didn't get it. It's a really beautiful little video you made, isn't it? Come into the shot.
Yeah, I'll squeeze across.
Shot, are you? There's some lovely things that you've written there. I've read quite a lot of people saying they felt inspired to paint, having watched the demonstration, and Sylvia was saying it's a good time of year to get the paints out.
Yes.
So thank you so much for joining us. We'll get the bundles out to you, and as I say, I did mean to say, sorry, at Arley next year, Andrew is going to be doing some lessons here as well as in the Cotswolds. But actually, there's also going to be a whole team of artists coming here over the next couple of years in Arley. So it won't just be me anymore, there'll be other artists doing lessons. And that includes also Tom Shepherd, who's coming over in 2026. So thank you guys for watching, and we will see you again another time. Thank you guys. Bye-bye for now.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.